Hey guys, so apparently when I recorded this video, the audio did not work. So I'm going to walk through my steps. Right now I'm sure I'm just reading the problem, so if you want to pause the video for a moment and read it. We are going to have two planes. They're going opposite of each other, one going west and one going east. So what you're going to see is me making my distance, rate, time chart. Now you're going to see me put rate times distance, or time, excuse me, rate times time equals distance on the top, and I'm going to label my two different planes. The first plane will be my west plane, and the second plane will be my east plane. I will read through the information to make sure that I put the correct rates in the correct spots, and then we'll follow through once I get a little further. Please note, we're going to use T in both of these columns because they leave at the same time. We have no indicated distance, so the distance is going to be the equation made up from the first two boxes. The next thing I'm going to do is they travel a total of 4,500 miles, so I'm going to take my two distances, add them, and set it equal to 4,500. The next thing you'll see me do is, now that I have my equations, I'm going to combine my like terms, divide, and solve for t, and t is time. Once you divide, you end up with 3 hours for time. Remember, they left at 12 p.m., so you need to adjust for that. So 12 p.m. plus 3 hours makes a total time of 3 p.m. that they are 4,500 miles apart. On to the next problem. Please take a moment to read it as I set it up. It is another distance problem, so I'm going to set up another box. But please read it through and see if you can fill in the box the way that I do. So I have my train and my bus. That's what the letter T and the letter B represent. Okay, something different about this problem that maybe you want to listen about is the rates are not given. The train is faster, so that's why it gets the plus 30. And the distances were given. Notice the equation I'm setting up. It's r plus 30 times t equals 60 and r times t equals 50. Each of these equations you need to get the letter t by itself, so please watch me get the letter t by itself. I know I make a quick little mistake here. I'm going to erase it, and then I'll get t by itself in both of the equations. Now that I have the variable t isolated in both equations, you set both of the equations equal to each other, and in this case, find a common denominator. Okay, do the bubble step to see what's missing from both of them, and make a new equation based off of the two bubbles. Once you have the two things set equal to each other, you're going to distribute the right side, and then you'll move the variables to the left, divide, and solve. Okay, now that R is just for the bus. In order to get the train, I need to add 30. Okay, now this one's about 3 even integers. So my first integer is x, and the next even one is +2, and the next even one is +4. Those are my 3 integers. Now we're going to read our context clues, and we are going to make an equation. So the word sum tells me I'm going to add those 3 items together. The word is equals, and it's 10 more than twice the little guy. Now you're going to combine your like terms, take the variables to the left, divide, and solve. Okay, the problem asks you to identify just the largest, but in order you had to do that, you had to find the smallest is 4, the next one is 6, the next one is 8. So just 8 is really your answer. Now we're going to move on to nickels and dimes. So we have a value of 240 and a total of 35. Please watch. I use N for nickels and D for dimes. So the first one is your value equation, and the next one is just your total numbers of nickels and dimes. Now I'm going to do the Mr. Travel Piece trick, where I take the 0.05 to the bottom and the 1 to the top. Make the 0.05 negative. Okay, distribute through. Notice that the ends are going to cancel out now. This is linear combination or elimination. Remember, we had to distribute through. Combine your like terms and divide by 0.05. Okay, so we end up with 13 dimes. Plug that into the easier equation to solve for n, and you end up with 22 nickels. And if you did the math, that would give you $2.40. Second page, these are the 3-column problems. You're going to draw a line, 2 big lines to give yourself 3 columns. And the first column will be the first equation, and you will solve that equation for the easiest variable. In this case, you will solve the first equation for x. Please watch, make sure you add y and subtract z. Now what you're going to notice me doing is the second equation, I'm going to take away the x, and I'm going to put in that box. I'm going to put in what I got in the first particular column and continue with my equation. I will now distribute this 3 and get this problem in standard form. Now in the third column, I'm going to do the same thing I did in the second column. I'm going to go to the third equation, take out the x, replace it with the box, combine my like terms, and then get it in standard form. Now that column 2 and column 3 are in standard form, I'm going to put column 2 and column 3 one on top of the other and do the Mr. Travel Piece elimination trick. So there's the third column answer, there's the second column answer, and now it's time for the Mr. Travel Piece trick. Okay, so now you can see I applied the Mr. Travel Piece trick with the -5 and the +6. The y's are canceling out. We're going to get -17z, -34 divide, and we'll get z. After we get z, we're going to move to the left. Okay, now plug z in beside the 2. Okay, solve for y, so you end up getting y equaling -1. Now you're going to go all the way to the left. You're going to plug in y. You're going to plug in what you got for z, and then that random +4. Combine, and you'll get x to be +1. You should take your 3 answers and plug them back in. Please remind me, there is a way to do this on your calculator, and I'm happy to show you that together in class. Number 6 is going to be the exact same. Take your first equation, get x by itself. Okay, now that we got x by itself, you're going to put that into the second equation in the second column. Okay, now I'm combining like terms and taking the 8 to the other side so it's in standard form. Now we're going to do the same thing in the third column. Replace the x with what we got from the first column. Continue the rest of the third equation. We're going to distribute, combine, and get it in standard form. Okay, now I'm putting the second column under the third column and applying Mr. Travel Piece's trick. Okay, once we do this step, the 10s are going to cancel and we'll get a -1z equals -4. Now we're going to take our answer of 4 and put it in the middle column and get y. After this, we get -3. We're going to take those two answers and put them in the left column. Okay, please remind me, we can do these in our calculators. I just need to remember to show you. Okay, the last page, we have another distance problem to practice. This problem didn't used to be on here until students asked for another one to practice. This one could potentially show up on the final. Please read through it and try to do your chart and check your chart with mine. P.S. This is the same type of problem as the train and bus problem. Okay, so we have the same time, so we're going to fill in our times as t's. We're going to fill in our distances appropriately. That's how many yards they run. By the way, when you solve this, they both would have to be as fast as like the flash, so I apologize. Okay, watch our equations. We're going to do r plus 200 in a quantity times t equals 31,680. Now we're going to get the t's by themselves in each equation by dividing the r items over to the other side. Now that they both equal t, we'll set them equal to each other and do the common denominator thing as we have in the past. All right, now you notice I did the bubbles to see what they were missing. It's pretty much like cross multiplying. Denominators drop out. I'm going to distribute, move my variables to the left, and solve. So when you take your variables to the left and divide it out, R is for Maddie in our problem because Maddie had a plain R in her chart. And then for Carla, we're just going to add 200. So notice I start labeling this wrong. It is not Carla. That is Maddie. I am about to erase it. Coming. There you go. So that's Maddie, and then Carla is going to add 200 to be 1,200 total. Okay, now we're going back to review number 2. I needed to find the biggest perfect square in 120, which was 4, and the biggest perfect square in 270, which is 9. I will take the square roots of the 4 and the 9 and put i's beside them, and then combine my like terms. Okay, and the next problem, I have to use the conjugate to get the I out of the denominator. So we're going to distribute the 3 in the top to get 30 plus 3i, and then the denominator will be a little bit more difficult, but it's just going to be 100 plus 10i minus 10i minus I squared. Okay. Remember, I squared is negative I squared is a positive 1, so that's how I got 101. Number 15, there's a common base. This does happen on the final. The common base between 2 and 16 is 2. So the left-hand side is going to stay 2 to the 5x. The right-hand side, 16, is 2 to a power of 4. So instead of 16, you do 2 to a power of 4, and then the x plus 1 travels beside the 4. Cancel the 2's and just look at your exponents, distribute, take your variables to the left, and solve. Okay, number 16, there is no common base, so we're going to change it to a log. The exponent equals x. Type it in your calculator. You can always do log of 21, divide by log of 3, and you will have your answer. Okay, if you ever want to verify that's right, just put it in there for x. Okay, the next one, you're going to distribute. You're going to add your exponent, so 2n plus n makes 3n. Distribute again, that's going to be negative 5x to the 2n. Distribute again, positive 3x to the n, and distribute again, negative 15. Nothing has common exponents, so it's all done. Number 18. It says solve. Anytime it's x squared, it's set equal to 0. Do the quadratic formula. I think you guys are pretty good at that, so just take a look and make sure your numbers match mine. Okay, I think we're going to get a perfect square inside this square root. I'm sure I'm typing it on my calculator now. Square root of 144, good. That's going to turn into a 12 in the next step. Negative 2 plus or minus 12. That's going to be 10 over 2 and negative 14 over 2, and then we will reduce those. All right, we got another quadratic formula coming our way. Please remember how important it is to use those parentheses around that negative 3 inside of there. I think we get another perfect square of 169. Just so you know, on the final there will be one that is not a perfect square. Okay, so the square root of 169 is 13. I'm going to add 3 and 13 and then subtract, and I'll reduce each one of my fractions. So 16 over 4 is 4, and negative 5/2 for the other. Okay, the next one is factoring. You need them to multiply to -9 because that was a times c, add to -8. Magic numbers are -9 and 1. Set up your box, put your magic numbers in there. GCF, GCF. Set them up as a pair of parentheses. And I know I make mention on this problem. On the test, if there's a GCF, please make sure you take it out. Make sure it ends up in the front of these parentheses. I'm saying it because it happens. And do not use a quadratic formula. Have a great day and good luck in preparing.